All right. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. With that, we'll turn to Director Ward for any opening remarks. Yeah.
It's great to see everybody. Know that it's been a while since we've last met, and it's been a wild year for us so far here at Cal OES and for many of you as well. Uh, Not only with the extraordinary firestorms in Southern California, but we've had quite a bit of activity on the earthquake front as well, with the 7.0 off Cape Mendocino that resulted in the first ever local source warning, tsunami warning. That's unprecedented. So a first there, knock on wood that it never happens again where there's a problem. But if it's going to happen somewhere in California, that's probably one of the best places to have it happen, because they are so well prepared to move and to not hesitate to take action up in that area of California. And then a 5.8 in Yerington, Nevada, also felt in California. And then Julian, a 5.2. And kudos to everyone in this room who has had any effort in our MyShake app. Right after several days, I think, after the Julian earthquake, we went over 4 million downloads. And from that is a huge accomplishment. Been trying to get to that. I know Lori has for quite some time. And so it was a huge accomplishment for everybody. And even the governor announced that it was a significant step forward in expanding our access to life-saving technology in California. So kudos to everybody who had any involvement in getting the word out, helping us make 4 million downloads. As a significant milestone. Also of note and certainly of concern are the uncertainty of the federal grants, and certainly hope that the cuts to the U.S. Geological Survey aren't demonstrative, and certainly preserve what we need to have them preserve in terms of their significance to our programs and to the people of California in the earthquake sphere. There are no indications yet of anything or any cuts to the Shake Alert technology itself, but we're encouraging Congress to ensure that the president maintains Shake Alert and the team at the USGS Earthquake Science Center to ensure that their life-saving capabilities is continuing to be available when the Californians need it most. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about our program updates for the benefit cost analysis, certainly the airport study, the education and outreach successes, such as the completion of the Earthquake Readiness Guide, the Earthquake of Epidemics exhibit at the Sacramento History Museum. I hope all of you go and see this tremendous exhibit that we don't get a lot of notice about earthquakes unless something happens, but it's quite astounding, the evolution of the earthquakes, and it's something to behold, and kids just love it, I'm told. So please go and see it. And then also we're going to talk a little bit about a social media influencer, which is going to be new, I think. But thank you for these meetings, and we've had great discussions in September, and we hope to have more. We hope to talk a little bit about the MyShake this coming year, and how we can do better, do more, and how that will impact all of us to get involved in certainly moving that needle a little bit further. So with that, Derek, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Director Ward. At this time, would any other advisory board members like to make any opening remarks? Hearing none, in the packet you received in your email and in the folder in front of you, there's a copy of the meeting minutes from the last meeting that was that was held on September 11th, 2024. We will need to approve the meeting minutes from the last meeting as today we have a quorum. Please take a few minutes to review. So I know review is taking place for the sake of time as well. Director, any changes or discussion for the prior minutes?
Move approval.
And is there a second?
Second.
Motion passes. Previous meeting minutes are approved. With that, we'll now hear from the Earthquake Early Warning System Operations Manager, Philip Labra, who will review some significant recent events that have occurred.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm excited to kick off things by taking a look at some of the most significant earthquake events that have occurred since our last board meeting. These events remind us of why our work in preparedness and early warning is so critical, and also set the stage for important updates from our partners later on. Next slide. On December 5th, 2024, a magnitude 7.0 earthquake struck near the offshore Cape Mendocino area, resulting in strong ground shaking across Northern California. In response, Governor Newsom issued a state of emergency for Del Norte, Humboldt, and Mendocino counties to support emergency response efforts. Cal OES also activated the State Operations Center to help local agencies monitor impacts and coordinate resources. As you can see on the shake map, shaking from the event extended far south as the San Francisco Bay Area and reached inland to Redding and the northern Sacramento Valley. This was a major test of the system's performance, capability, and public alerting activity. MyShake performed well with over 468,000 devices receiving alerts. The Android Earthquake Alert System sent notifications to over 4.5 million Android devices in California and Oregon, showcasing the scale and effectiveness of mass smartphone alerts during a real event. We received reports that Shake Alert license to operate technical partners triggered automated actions such as BART slowing trains, and automated alerts through PA systems were triggered for a school district and a medical center in Medford, Oregon. A wireless emergency alert, or WEA, was issued for the earthquake, and the National Tsunami Warning Center issued a tsunami warning shortly after the earthquake and advised people to move inland or to find higher ground. As the director mentioned, the tsunami warning was canceled within the hour once data confirmed that no significant tsunami was generated. This was the first major WEA for a tsunami warning in California in several years. The event served as a real-world test of the emergency alert infrastructure, how mobile networks handle high-volume alerts, and how the public responds to dual hazards. The issuance of the alert underscores how difficult it is to rapidly assess tsunami potential from offshore earthquakes. Tsunami warnings are issued quickly and cautiously to prevent loss of life if a wave is generated, and this event provided agencies an opportunity to educate the public about how tsunami warnings work. These events serve as real-time tests for the system and a constant reminder to residents that we live in earthquake country and to continue to stay prepared along the coast. Well, here we cover latency for offshore Cape Mendocino. The first phone received an alert 15.1 seconds after the event origin via Shake Alert. The first MyShake alert was received 0.7 seconds later for a total latency of 15.8 seconds. And due to the location of the earthquake being offshore and distance to the closest population center, which would be Ferndale, UC Berkeley estimates that close to 100% of MyShake users received the alert before shaking arrived. On this slide, you'll see the breakdown of MyShake downloads following the offshore Cape Mendocino earthquake. As we can observe, Downloads peak immediately after the event, increasing by over 20,000 downloads and continue for several days. Following the event, CalOS helped to boost awareness through rapid response outreach efforts, targeting communities near the epicenter. These messages encourage residents to prepare for aftershocks, provided earthquake preparedness resources, and to download the MyShake app, helping to reinforce public safety messaging at a critical time. To the right, you'll see the map highlighting areas where people felt shaking and reported them on the USGS website. Slide. Just 4 days after the magnitude 7.0 earthquake struck offshore Cape Mendocino, an unrelated magnitude 5.7 earthquake occurred near the Parker Butte or Urington area, triggering ground ruptures and causing minor structural damage in the rural areas. Over 12,000 people recorded feeling the earthquake. Shaking was felt hundreds of miles from the epicenter in northern and eastern California regions. Communities near the Nevada borders, such as Mammoth Lakes, Bishop, and South Lake Tahoe, experienced the most noticeable shaking. Farther west, light to moderate shaking was reported in parts of the Central Valley, including Sacramento, Stockton, and Modesto, even as far as the San Francisco Bay Area. Now, it's important to note that Nevada is not part of the California Earthquake Early Warning System or the Shake Alert operational area. However, the system quickly processed the earthquake because sensors in Eastern California detected shaking. Now, as you can see, over 150,000 MyShake alerts were sent to devices, and Google delivered over 1.6 million alerts to Android devices. And because the earthquake was above a magnitude 5, WIAs were sent out to several counties, as you can see. This event demonstrates that even though the epicenter was outside of California's borders, the system still detected the quake quickly and sent alerts to nearby areas within California, giving people valuable seconds to take protective actions. Next slide. Just over the latency, the first phone received an alert 16.3 seconds after the event origin via Shake Alert, and the first MyShake alert was received 0.3 seconds later for a total latency of 16.6 seconds. Again, as you can see with some of the graphs here, UC Berkeley also estimates that over 99% of MyShake users received the alert before shaking arrived. Next slide. Again, you'll see the breakdown of MyShake downloads by day for the Parker Butte earthquake, and to the right, the areas where people felt shaking and reported them. Next slide. On April 14th, 2025, a magnitude 5.2 earthquake struck near Julian in San Diego County. Shaking was felt across much of Southern California, including San Diego, Riverside, Orange County, and as far north as Los Angeles. What makes this event noteworthy is the performance of the system. People in Los Angeles received more than 30 seconds of warning before the shaking arrived. That's a significant lead time, providing enough opportunity for individuals to take protective actions and for critical systems to prepare for the shaking. The MyShake app sent alerts to over 693,000 devices, and Android sent notifications to over 6.8 million users across the region. And WIA was also issued for multiple counties and Shake Alert technical partners, including the Los Angeles Unified School District, and Metrolink activated automated alerts and actions. This event highlights the benefits of EEW even for moderate earthquakes, and it reinforces how EEW can support public safety across densely populated regions like Southern California. Next slide. As illustrated, the Shake Alert system detected the earthquake and issued its first alert message within 16.3 seconds after the quake began. Once Shake Alert issued the warning, MyShake delivered alerts to the first devices in just 0.3 seconds. The Julian earthquake demonstrates how rapid alerts, effective performance, and coordinated public messaging can promote both action and preparedness. Excuse me. In the 2 days following the magnitude 5.2 Julian earthquake, daily downloads of the MyShake app surged by 50,000 downloads. In addition, as Director Ward mentioned, this event pushed MyShake past the 4 million downloads milestone, as public interest in EEW spiked following the widely felt event, marking a major achievement in public engagement with EEW technology. Next slide.
Thank you, Philip. My apologies to the board, but in my effort to move us along and to catch up, we might have cut short an essential part of the process. So if you don't mind, I'd like to revisit the minutes and the vote for the minutes very quickly. I know we had a first and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Motion passes, and the previous meeting minutes are approved. Thank you. Before you is a discussion question. They are meant to elicit conversation, but we open it up to the board for any items or topics that you heard in the system ops presentation that you might want to discuss. Director Ward, would you like to provide any comments?
Thank you for that. That was, it's interesting to see the trajectory of the MyShake applications and how they go up and come down, but then over several days still have a steady result. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And do any board members wish to ask a question or provide comment? Again, you may press the button, and when the green light is on, speak directly into the microphone. And the provided, and actually, that's all I need to tell you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, we did feel the earthquake in the natural resources building, both of the earthquakes. And it was the first time that brand new building had actually felt it. So it was a great opportunity for us to remind everyone, hey, you can get early warning ahead of time. Because I did get an early warning when I was in the building on the second earthquake. And I told everyone, okay, under the table. And they're looking at me like, what? I'm like, no, get under the table. Trust me. And a couple of seconds later, things were moving a little bit.
Wow.
A few people got queasy and everything, but we were safe. We were under the table. If something had happened, we were ready. So that really helped increase downloads within our agency because they realized, oh, this thing works. It gives warning. So it was a real life example. So I'm glad it was a real life example that didn't have other consequences. Yeah.
Kudos to you for getting them under the table.
Thank you. It's great. Any other comments? Board Member Briggs?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I remember this one. I was 6 stories up in our main headquarters in downtown Oakland, got the warning, didn't do anything, was more, just sort of surprised. And many people that were working around me were wondering what my phone was doing. And then they quickly figured it out. Some number of seconds later, we felt what was going on, but just an interesting observation. The building that I work in has been, it's modern, it's been seismically reinforced with, the engineering that allows the building to absorb the energy instead of, try to resist it. And the fascinating thing was the steel frame, but a lot of our building looks, similar to the steel framing you have in this building. But the building squeaked for, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes. I'm not kidding. The building was still dissipating the energy many, many minutes after the earthquake had come and gone. You could hear the squeaking. It was interesting. But operationally, one of the things that was, so it wasn't obviously that intense of an earthquake in downtown Oakland, but the tsunami warning. So probably not, I know we're in an earthquake forum now, not probably the time or place, but I would love to know more about tsunami forecasting and who makes the call and what data they may have had. I appreciate being conservative, but I can tell you that from my perspective, it was very chaotic getting a warning to head for the hills, especially in the interior of the bay, which is very unusual. That we haven't seen before, and I don't know if that was supposed to be the case. I mean, on the coastline, of course, but you guys all know the aperture of the bay is, you know, what, 1.5 miles wide or whatever, very narrow, and then it, you know, expands very, you know, very quickly as we get into the central bay, and it dissipates that energy. So I would be curious to know, maybe later, maybe talk to the right person, like how that all works, because it was chaotic. We had people fleeing Alameda Island while other people were getting onto Alameda Island to get their kids out of school. We had Berkeley issued an evacuation. We issued some for, we have facilities that are right, we have a wastewater treatment plant. Hello? Okay. Our wastewater treatment plant is, you know, 6 feet of elevation right on the bay. So anyway, it was very chaotic. Appreciated getting the quick withdrawal of that warning. But yeah, that was very chaotic.
Thank you for sharing that. And we would be happy to meet with you. We also have the traditional earthquake, tsunami, volcano side of Cal OES under Jose Lara here, our seismic hazards branch, and we can get you that information. And yes, in fact, the inner bay is part of the inundation zone. So we can provide maps, inundation maps, and then I believe San Francisco and other cities on the bay have evacuation plans for tsunamis. So we'd be absolutely happy to provide you with that. My experience was that was the morning of the first vacation I'd had in 5 years. I am sorry. I flew to Louisiana and had just landed, and I got the alert because on my shake, I've set up my home base in Sacramento where my mother lives. And so I got it. And of course, I knew what it was right away and was looking for places to drop, cover, and hold on when I realized where I was. And then immediately called my staff and said, what just happened? But I didn't call my mom first. I called my staff first. Sorry, Mom. Yeah. I just want to say, though, that that's why the home base exists on the app, and it did what it was supposed to do.
Thank you. Yes, Board Member Novak.
A couple of comments about these incidents. One, I think it's really promising to see how well the system performed in these recent incidents. And with the December 5th, the earthquake and tsunami was pretty interesting experience for CSU because we have so many coastal assets up and down that I was trying to get in touch with, and areas that had received that warning that didn't traditionally think of themselves as exposed to tsunami. So we're actually doing a big system-wide tsunami exercise this coming December, almost exactly 1 year after the other earthquake with the Cascadia scenario, so that we can actually practice our processes and understand better how things should operate during an earthquake and tsunami, and get people thinking a little bit more about that part of the state. As someone that grew up in Humboldt County, I feel like many of our colleagues down in Southern California don't quite understand the threat and the risk and the potential for isolation in that part of the state. So we'll be working through that this year, and I'm working with Todd Becker on that. So, but then I also wanted to share, because I did get the alert on April 14th for the Julian earthquake. We were actually doing a virtual risk conference. So we had risk managers, emergency managers, environmental health and safety across the whole CSU. We were on Zoom for this big conference. And of course, it's my department that's hosting it. It started at 10, I think. So, the earthquake was at like 10:08. So we're all on camera. And then I got the early warning, and I started looking around. I'm all the way up in Long Beach, but we're on the 5th floor. And sure enough, just a couple of seconds after I got the warning, we started to feel the shaking, and it was very prolonged. being on kind of that upper level, even though we are in a modern building as well. But I was able to take the opportunity to drop cover and hold on camera, although, you know, they didn't see the part where I actually got down. They just saw that I left from the Zoom box, you know. But so I think that was a good platform to kind of demonstrate, you know, taking a safety action on a big conference like that. But what was unfortunate for me was that I was supposed to co-present at 11 o'clock with the San Diego State emergency manager, who had to then go activate her EOC and leave me to solo present at 11 a.m. So it worked out. We were just happy that there was no, you know, major damages, and it ended up being okay, because it sure felt long from where we were in Long Beach. But yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Any more comments from the board? Okay, we'll now move into research and development portion of our meeting. We'll start with status updates on recent research and implementation projects. And I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Cheryl Rabinovich, the primary researcher on the recent California Earthquake Early Warning System Benefits Cost Assessment that we commissioned through a partnership with UC Berkeley's Pacific Earthquake Engineering Center, otherwise known as PEER. Dr. Rabinovich.
Greetings and thank you for having me here to present on our team's project, Assessing Benefits and Costs of EEW in California. It's a relief to be among a crowd where I don't have to explain what that acronym means. My name is Cheryl, and I'm the lead consultant to PEER, as Derek mentioned, who were granted the project by interagency agreement about 2 years ago, and we've put 18 months of work in that I'm going to try and summarize for you now in 14 minutes, which is why I have something written in front of me, because I'm a scientist who has just completed a 250-page report, and you don't want to hear all about it. So the researchers on the project that I want to acknowledge are Drs. Lori Johnson, Dan Ackland, Salim Gunay, as well as research assistant Jerry Sawyer and Professor Khalid Mosallam, director of PEER, and Dr. Amarnath Kasalanati also supervised and gave oversight. We designed the study with 2 goals in mind. First, to survey how EEW is being used in the state currently with what information we can find about its benefits and costs. And second, to identify needs and opportunities to increase the state's EEW program's impact going forward. To do that, we used a mix of methods, combining stakeholder interviews and analysis of the literature with best available scientific information and methods, including some new methods that we had to invent within the study's resources and scope. Today's presentation is just a brief overflight of this fairly epic report, but we did produce a condensed version that's only that tries to get the whole story out in a much more accessible way. That might be what you end up seeing down the line. So let's start at the highest level view and hopefully find the right slides. We're on slide 4. That looks like the right talk. Starts EEW development. There you go. At the highest level view, 5 years out from the last benefit cost assessment of this program that I was involved in, and 5 years after going live with public EEW alerts in the state, we find California positioned solidly in a leading role in the US and globally. There are currently 23 nations with national or regional scale EEW alert systems, and California's powered by Shake Alert and the USGS is among the top in the world in terms of sophistication and population reach. Reasons why. California has led in earthquake detection and processing science and technology for decades. Cal OES specifically has been central to building collaborative governance partnerships, leveraging infrastructure investments for multiple entities, and embedding EEW in public safety and preparedness efforts, for instance, through the Great Shakeout. Through these kinds of partnerships, we now have a dense instrumentation network that's nearly 100% complete, a successful alerting track record, the beginnings of a vendor ecosystem to deliver EEW services to the private sector, and growing public interest and support. Now, these conclusions are just some of the highlights of our analysis and distillation of over 100 reports, program documents, and peer-reviewed studies, of which there are a growing number, including some exciting social science work about user behavior, impressions, and behavior change. We also created some new data through the study in the form of 17 interviews done last year with a broad mix of experts involved in Shake Alert and EEW from the state and beyond. The perspectives varied from system operations to seismology to emergency management, and again, social science, where I will flag the remarkable progress in understanding individual and societal dimensions of receipt of EEW and how users feel and interact with it. So the full report includes a summary of the findings from that new literature of the last 5 years, although I won't be talking about it right here. Importantly, I think we spoke with more than half of the current list of licensed to operate technical partners for Shake Alert, which I will refer to for short as LTOs. So the first qualitative insight I want to share is a typology we developed to describe the commonalities and differences between LTOs, that the features of an LTO that might matter for program strategy. So LTOs of different types have different clients, they work in different geographies, they use different technologies, and they have different business models. So we need to engage with them differently as program managers to help them achieve what they're best at in the ecosystem for EEW. Now, we called personal device delivery LTOs. That's where California is really achieving reach and success. Multiple alerts for felt earthquakes are being sent out each year to smartphones and now Chromebooks, and they're reaching hundreds of thousands to millions of people when appropriate criteria are being met. That is a huge success. No other state has achieved it. 2 other countries have, maybe 3, have achieved it. So congratulations to everyone here and the program's efforts over decades to achieve that collaboratively. Now, what I call the vendor type LTOs come in 2 flavors. One is specialized, and those are LTOs that invent technologies for EEW receipt, hardware and or software, and they sell it, usually along with consulting services. They tend to be smaller, boutique, kind of startup in flavor. Add-on LTOs, and these names are flexible. If we find a better one now that we're having this conversation, happy to put to that. But I call it an add-on LTO because they're integrating EEW information as a product add to their existing public safety communications platforms that they use nationwide for clients involving a lot of different hazards. So you can see how that's a different model of delivery and a different kind of firm that's offering that service. Finally, institutional LTOs are just that. They're single entities that take on implementing EEW for themselves, potentially, but not always yet, somewhat surprisingly, for multiple purposes. We did not find evidence, in contrast to personal device delivery, that any of the other 3 types of LTOs are providing EEW services at scale in California. So remarkable success on the category in the left, no adoption at scale in the other 3 categories of LTOs. Don't feel too bad about that yet, though, because no other country or place in the world has achieved that either. But I will point out that Japan and Mexico have achieved EEW use at scale through regulations and enormous public nonprofit program effort. That's what it's taken. All right, moving on to the numbers part of the project. Yeah, there you go. The numbers part, we developed a statewide math model with 4 intricate use case submodels. 2 that involve human responses to EEW alerts, smartphone notifications, and public address systems in schools, and 2 that are machine-to-machine applications, mass transit and elevator car control. Importantly, and in distinction to past EEW benefit studies, we took the stance of trying to estimate a lower bound of the state's net benefits from EEW. And that means we consistently made conservative assumptions rather than aiming for what's typical in the literature, which is a best case scenario. Like, what if everything goes perfectly and the EEW has all the benefits that we hope it will? That's what I call a best case. Sometimes also people estimate a best guess, which is kind of like the on average, you know, what's reasonable to expect, but not the highest. We aimed instead for a lower bound, which is a net benefits estimate that we can have very high confidence in. And the reason why we did that is so that we can provide information for decision makers that they can confidently use to make choices, base strategy on, and take action when there's real trade-offs under a limited budget. So we can't afford to make decisions based on what might happen. We need to focus we can't pursue all opportunities. So we have to pursue the ones where we're the most sure about the good that we can do. And that's what we were trying to provide information from by taking that approach. All right. So a quick run through of the use cases. Smartphone notifications in California are going exceptionally well. We have reliable performance, wide coverage, and public appeal. The benefits of these alerts in dollar terms that we were able to build into the model, expressed per earthquake, per person in a location with at least modified Mercalli 6+ intensity shaking, and at least 10 seconds or more of advanced warning, we can count up confidently $574 per person who gets a warning under those conditions. In a single large earthquake in a metro area, if only 10% of the warned population met those criteria, that might be about 500,000 people. And that would be $287 million in physical injury and post-traumatic stress disorder avoidance benefits. Now, that is significant. That is commendable. Everything is in place already to achieve that benefit when an event like that happens. So we can celebrate that. I would like to note that that is about 1/4 of the value that has been put out in various pieces in the literature in the past. And we feel that's some evidence of the fact that those were very optimistic estimates, and ours, we feel, is very confident and involves less uncertainty in that number. So it's a lower number that we can put higher confidence that we are sure the value is at least this much. And there are many benefits that we are not even adding, considering in. Now, one last point on this, a single specific earthquake only has a tiny chance of happening. But if we consider many, many earthquakes in many, many locations, as our model is set up to do, using the USERF-3 rupture catalog, which has 200,000 rupture scenarios, we can multiply each event-specific total benefit by the event's probability to understand what society can statistically expect from the system over a 40-year period. Public address systems in schools are an area of high importance in a setting where the technical aspects of implementation are pretty straightforward and relatively low cost. Yet current benefits in California are pretty small because the coverage is extremely limited. we were able to verify less than 100 schools in the state that have operational PA systems with EEW automatic. That said, through smartphones, which are now nearly universal in society, older school children and most staff already have access to EEW alerts in their school settings. So our recommendations focus on perhaps shifting focus from helping people in school environments effectively use their personal device alerts and focus less on trying to get schools to become LTOs. The signal is already in that environment. Let's go with it and make it work how it's already reaching them. And finally, it may seem counterintuitive, but the benefits of EEW per earthquake per beneficially warned child are almost half as that for an adult. But that's because children already attempt drop, cover, and hold on actions at higher rates than adults. So this is a point to be mindful of, that EEW creates more benefits where it creates the biggest changes from how people currently behave. It's not that children are worthless. It's that they're already getting the benefits of the DCHO training that they've had. So EEW changes less about how they protect themselves. All right, moving on to the two automated use cases at lightning speed here. Mass transit is another area of huge success for California. The two largest commuter train systems in the state are using EEW to make millions of riders safer every month. That's BART in the Bay Area and Metrolink in the Los Angeles area. But surprisingly to me, actually 20 years into working in this field, the data and the technical models did not really exist to predict the reduction in risk of derailment that can be achieved as a function of the number of seconds of alert received, conditional on the amount of shaking at that location. So we developed an approach to try to approximate that. It needs peer review from people who work in the train building industry, which is not me, but we've advanced the ball significantly towards being able to make those types of estimates. And we just completed the results for BART proof of concept of the model run this week. So you can look forward to reading about that in your future reports. Walking you through quickly what I mean by calculating benefits in relation to each one of those USRF3 rupture forecasts. You see here in a BART map mock-up a visual of the transit system divided into 112 mile-long track segments. So for the Hayward Fault rupture that's shown here, we used a tool called OpenSHA to measure the distance between it and each of those track segments to determine how many seconds of warning a train there would have to slow down before S-wave shaking arrives. And then the blue polygon encloses a region where the alert arrives too late. But for every segment outside that, where the shaking intensity is also severe enough to lead to derailment risk, measurable derailment risk, those segments have a countable EEW benefit based on the odds of there being a train on that segment at the random time of an earthquake occurrence, and the amount of reduction in speed that could be achieved at that location. So this is not a true probabilistic seismic hazard analysis, but there's only one study in the world that's ever attempted that in Switzerland. And the next best study was done in Washington State, and it had 20 scenarios. Our model is capable of using all 200,000. So the last case to mention is elevator control. It's another area of untapped use in California. This seems to be an issue of preparedness culture, political will, and lack of standards and regulations, not of technical feasibility, because elevator car control with EEW is standard practice in high rises in Japan. Our elevator model focuses on the utility of EEW to get cars to the nearest floor sooner, or to establish backup power sooner, which together reduce the chances of entrapment and help avoid dehydration-related illnesses for persons detained a long time. That comes out to a small monetary benefit per retrofitted elevator, but you'll notice again that this is a very narrow definition of potential benefits that EEW might be able to contribute in this setting. It's another example of the lower bound approach. So there simply weren't sufficient models or evidence available to be able to mathematically represent more systemic indirect benefits, like how having fewer rescue operations helps firefighting, or how more reliable elevator service might reduce liability risk or insurance rates for owners. The data does not exist yet to project those types of benefits. So the bottom line, our full report documents EEW in California and its achievement of reaching this technologically mature phase in 2 of its 4 core functions: detection of earthquakes and rapidly delivering a reliable, useful message product. The fact that we are reaching 3/4 or more of people in the state is a phenomenal accomplishment. And the next frontier to conquer is to make sure people are ready to receive it and respond effectively with the information we're providing. And that also includes finding pathways to ensure adoption of sensible automated uses. I know that we are limited on time, but I wanted to express that there is an alternative way of looking at the value of a system, that rather than adding up use by use, how much do we get from this, how much do we get from that, you can also go to the population and ask the public, how much would you be willing to pay to have a functional earthquake early warning system in your state? Whether or not it benefits you personally in your lifetime, how much is it worth for such a functional system to exist? We haven't done any original studies of Californians' opinions, but studies from Iran, Japan, and Washington State show that that value is about $15 per person per year. So if you have 30 million voting age California adults, that's $450 million per year of stated value for the public for the fact that this system exists. And impressively, that's over 20-to-1 benefit to cost compared with the $17 million per year budget of this program specifically. So as my final point in our limited time, I want to assert that the most efficient, immediate way to increase the achieved benefits of EEW in this state is to make sure that personal device alerts are used to their maximum benefits. For instance, just to give you a taste of the kind of recommendations we included, what might happen if we shifted and intensified our public outreach to target audiences that are doing high risk or high stakes tasks, and develop collaborative custom messaging about how they can use smartphone EEW to protect themselves? I'm talking about people doing construction, truck drivers, utility maintenance, nursing. These people already have smartphone EEW in their pocket, but they don't know how to use it in their context. So our report contains this and 12 other high priority recommendations, 7 related to the core capabilities of the system, and 5 related to how California can help strengthen the shared EEW ecosystem with its partners and the private sector going into the future. And we're excited to share those results and recommendations with you in the coming months. I just want to acknowledge and thank my fellow researchers, our interview partners, participant volunteers, numerous experts who lent their time and expertise, often gratis, and the Cal OES staff who supported us through this very complicated, twisty, windy project to this point. I welcome your thoughts and questions now at the discussion time or after this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rabinovich. Please don't go far. We will open it up for discussion and questions in just a bit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to introduce you to Adam Cohen from UC Berkeley's Resilient and Innovative Mobility Initiative, otherwise known as REMI, to speak with us about the EEW Airport Feasibility Study.
Thank you. Adam Cohen, Senior Research Manager at the Transportation Sustainability Research Center at UC Berkeley. I want to thank first the previous speaker, thank Cal OES, and also our multidisciplinary team that helped put together this research. It should come as no surprise that airports play a really critical role both in disaster response and recovery, including emergency relief operations. And so the application of EEW is really kind of interesting in an airport context. And I look forward to kind of talking a little bit more about that. So there are several different kind of potential benefits for EEW in an airport context. And you'll hear me kind of talk about kind of two core stakeholders, both kind of the personnel themselves and the passengers. And that's a really important distinction that I want to keep in mind as we talk, because I think there are going to need to be targeted strategies for each of those audiences. But at a high level, EEW can kind of reduce injuries by providing us advance warning to passengers and personnel to take proactive protective actions. We can do this through enabling automated safety actions. Some of them I'll talk about in greater detail, but this includes shutting down fuel lines, stopping elevators, other types of conveyances, and overall minimizing service disruptions, allowing airports to initiate emergency protocols before the severe shaking occurs. Now, there are four kind of key earthquake risks to airports. The first one is kind of structural damage. This is kind of illustrated on the left here, the core structure to the physical buildings, and in many cases, it will be the terminal buildings with the greatest people risk. There's also non-structural damage depicted here on the right, everything from HVAC, ducts, lighting, windows, partitions. Liquefaction risks, and not limited to, but primarily runways, ramps, and paved areas, as well as fuel and pipeline damage. As I'll get into later in the presentation, this team also conducted, benefit cost analysis, and you'll hear me kind of talk about kind of how the fuel and pipeline damage ranked really high in those ratings. Some of the applications that are kind of most relevant to airports are the alerts and automated actions. These include kind of the staff alerts as well as public-facing alerts. When we conducted this study, we did a very robust stakeholder engagement, including institutional group discussions, expert interviews, both with the case study airports of Palm Springs and Los Angeles, but also with FAA and other key stakeholders, not only in California, but across the country. And we also, some of these automated actions can include, stopping people movers, baggage handling systems, fire bay doors. There are some automated actions in our conversations with the airports that you may not want to take, or that some airports may not want to take. And I'm going to keep this at a high level because I know this is being kind of recorded for public dissemination, but there were some areas of the airfield, for example, where if you had an automated action, it might expose a security risk. And so in some cases, automated actions you would not want to take in select applications. There were also a fairly robust look at kind of airfield and air traffic control applications. Air traffic control towers are arguably one of the highest risk areas at airports. And SFO, for example, spent upwards of $1 billion retrofitting and replacing their tower. And they say it can withstand an 8.0 earthquake. But possible alerts for air traffic control and also the pilot. So we talked to air traffic controllers. We also talked to a senior executive that had recently left the FAA. She had worked as a center controller for Miami Center. And we had very differing opinions among FAA personnel as to how useful EEW would be for a tower context. Some of them thought that it would be great. Others said, you know what? They can't leave their stations in the middle of an earthquake, and so that they're going to work through it. And even if they have to duck and cover and continue working, they were going to work through it. And so we think actually it's going to be really important that Cal OES really engaged FAA both at a regional level within the Western region, but also at the national level to see what kinds of SOPs might be required and how this could potentially be tested or implemented into FAA procedures. The FAA already has a standard disaster protocol that was implemented after 9/11, but it is very generic for a wide range of disasters. Also, looking at kind of a benefit cost analysis. We looked at, as part of this, alerts. And so those were the staff and public facing alerts, as well as the automated actions and the airside response. And so the benefits are calculated for most of the use cases that we looked at PSP, Palm Springs, as well as LAX. And calculated benefits are based on a reduction in injuries and death, infrastructure damage, and also repairs, and the potential risk of potential secondary hazards such as fires, explosions, and flooding. Now, as part of the benefit cost analysis, this included looking at kind of the cost of server purchase, setup, and maintenance, the cost of internet connectivity, the operational integration implementation, so costs such as linking EEW with each use case, the communication systems, transmitting the alarm signals and actuating valves and controlling the elevators, as well as the costs associated with training and maintenance, such as regular system testing, staff training, and emergency drills. Now, the case study airports, which I mentioned at a high level, are LAX and Palm Springs. LAX has over 500,000 flights a year, over 36 million enplanements, 4 runways, 10 terminals, and they're located near several active fault zones, including Newport, Inglewood, and close proximity to Santa Monica and Hollywood as well. And for Palm Springs, over 62,000 flights a year, 1.6 million enplanements, 2 runways, 2 terminals, also located near the San Andreas and several other faults and strands in the region. Now, this table here kind of summarizes the benefit costs analysis. Now, benefit costs were calculated over 50 years, which was determined to be the typical lifespan of the average airport infrastructure. And as part of this, the costs included looking at the structural response and damage fragility, and also the damage consequences with and without EEW. So everything that ranks above 1.0 on a true cost-benefit analysis would indicate justifying the investment. Now, I want to emphasize, if something doesn't rate above 1, doesn't necessarily mean you wouldn't do it. There could be very valid policy and safety reasons for doing it. This is just purely a benefit cost ratio. And so you see here the gas shutoff and the fuel shutoffs, both at Palm Springs and at LAX, rank really, really high. And in particular at Palm Springs for the gas shutoff. And this was because if their gas infrastructure at Palm Springs was impacted, it would actually shut down the airport for a prolonged period of time. And so that's part of the reason why it ranks so high. And on this analysis, elevators ranked relatively low. Now, there are several kind of key policy considerations that, in terms of what FAA guidelines will be needed to actually integrate EEW into the air traffic control and airside procedures. What are kind of international best practices at airports that could be implemented? We did look at some case studies internationally. And what kind of strategies could encourage wider adoption across not just California, but other earthquake-prone regions in the US and in the Western region? As the previous speaker noted, are several lessons from other sectors, and we think that there's a real potential for cross-sector partnerships and peer exchange of lessons learned. What I really want to highlight that we think are the greatest challenges in the airport context are really related to public awareness and outreach initiatives. Part of it is the importance of training airport personnel on EEW procedures. Not all personnel are based at the airport. Many of the personnel are crew members that fly through. And so there is a massive education outreach component that has to occur. In addition to that, educating passengers. And this is even more challenging than educating all the crew members that are going through airports. Passengers are coming globally, many of them that don't experience earthquakes in their home region. And if you ask Californians, as an example, how many of them have ever heard a tornado warning or knew what to do in a tornado warning, many Californians might be clueless. And so how do we train folks that may never ever hear EEW, and in the off chance that they do, how to react? This is a very substantial challenge in the airport context, because we want people to respond appropriately, whether it's duck and cover or whatever the actual method is. And we don't necessarily want somebody's phone ringing or for somebody to get an alert and then to go out a fire exit to shut down the airport, for 2 hours for everything to be rescreened. And so this becomes really important. Also, air travelers are very diverse. We have a lot of non-English travelers. We also have travelers with disabilities who may be blind, deaf, in wheelchairs, or other types of disabilities. And so how we make EEW accessible to all of these different populations in an airport context becomes really important. The other thing I want to kind of touch on briefly are financial constraints. Now, the upfront costs really aren't that great, but what you have to keep in mind is that in the airport business model for commercial airports, these costs are ultimately paid for by airlines and ultimately passed on to travelers. And so it really requires getting airlines and air carriers to really kind of buy into the importance of EEW. There's also concerns about cybersecurity risks, particularly when we're adding an external system into airport systems. And we found that kind of more research is really needed both for California airports. Also, this study did not look at general aviation airports, which is a very different operational model. There also needs to be standard SOPs for warning responses at airports. And what are those thresholds? And maybe some thresholds go to personnel, and then some actually are public-facing alerts at a higher threshold. And I would argue that there are tons of terminals that are under construction or under renovation, and that Cal OES really should engage these airports, whether it be LAX, Burbank, Palm Springs, SFO, or any of the others that have activities going on. And before these terminals are open to the public, see if Cal OES can do an exercise with the airport, with local stakeholders. Maybe we should be bringing in members of the public to hear these alerts for the first time and actually try seeing how they react in a closed context. And so these kinds of things I think will be really important before it is actually implemented in real time. I've included my contact information here, and I look forward to our conversation, and I thank you again for the opportunity to present.
Thank you, Adam. And before you is a discussion question for the board to keep in mind as we move through the R&D section. We discussed many use cases that would benefit from EEW. Which one do you believe would have the most impact on your industry? Again, discussion will be at the conclusion of the R&D section. So lastly, Brandon Howland, Research and Development Lead Coordinator with our Earthquake Early Warning Program, will provide an update on the data casting receiver project.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Derek said, my name is Brandon Howland. I'm with the Earthquake Early Warning Program. I'm the Senior Emergency Service Coordinator that focuses on the research and development of this program. I want to thank everyone for participating in the advisory board today and sitting here and taking the time to discuss data casting with me. And this project is a partnership with American Public Television Stations and California Public Television. This presentation is to showcase our support efforts in getting emergency alert receivers to seismically active areas. And this project will create another source of earthquake early warning alerts that will add resiliency to our alerting capabilities. Now, before we move on to the specifics of the program, I want to first identify the network that is being utilized to send out alerts to the end users. You can see that on your right. We worked with America's public television stations and California Public Television to install hardware on the already existing TV stations throughout California to enable them to send out datacasting emergency alerts that can reach up to 85% of Californians. These stations on the map on my slide serve the areas around Sacramento, San Francisco, Fresno, Los Angeles, San Diego, Eureka, Redding, Reno, Rohnert Park, and San Bernardino by utilizing the California Earthquake Early Warning System powered by Shake Alert. The significance of sending an alert through the California Public Television TV towers comes from their low latency, making it one of the fastest ways to alert users of incoming shaking, as well as high bandwidth to alert end users without having to utilize distribution through shards. With these stations operational, the next part of our project is to send out specialized datacasting receivers to local jurisdictions. The distribution of these receivers will focus on seismically vulnerable areas that are also in coverage. These receivers will be given out for free to interested EOCs, and they'll come with guidance and support for the installation process. The datacasting distribution project is a grant, and per Assembly Bill AB 102, the Budget Act of 2023 made appropriations for the support of state government for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. AB 102 included amendments to the appropriations, included the addition of $500,000 to be used for the purchase and installation of receiver boxes that utilized signals from the California Public Television Network to provide early warnings and information during earthquakes and other emergencies. Cal OES Earthquake Early Warning Program received the funds and will distribute them through the grant to APTS, that's American Public Television Stations, for the purchase of receivers. This will be the final phase of the datacasting pilot implementation project. We'll be focusing on distributing these receivers to local jurisdictions in seismically vulnerable areas and hard to reach places within California with a focus on emergency operations centers. I want to briefly cover a bit of how the system works from the initial shaking to the receiver alert. And now what's nice about, I think as Cheryl kind of mentioned before, I don't have to discuss too much about what EEW is, but we can see from the kind of graphic on the top left of the screen, that's kind of showcasing what the system looks like as a whole as it's operational. So from the rupture with the epicenter of the earthquake that causes the P and the S waves, and those waves will then signal or trigger the sensors, which will then process that or send that information to the Shake Alert processing centers. And then from there, we're going to talk about moving that information over to that datacasting receiver box at the California Public Television TV station, or tower, sorry. Now from that tower, the signal is going to be sent out to those specialized receiver boxes. That's about the size of a deck of cards. In that process from the tower to the receiver box is less than 1 second. Again, talking about that really fast latency speed. So one of the fastest ways to get alerts to end users. And as you can see also, this is a broadcast. So this isn't going to be like other alerting methods. We have to send it out in small shards because of data usage. You can broadcast that alert at one time to alert everyone in California at the same time. Now our datacasting receiver distribution project started by reaching out to local jurisdictions through our regional Cal OES staff to identify interested groups in using a datacasting receiver and being part of this project. We then sent out surveys to help us gather logistical information. We also held webinars for interested groups who wanted to learn more about the project, the equipment, and allow them to ask any questions they might have about either the system as a whole or the project. Now we are soon to begin the distribution of receivers to EOCs that have volunteered to be pioneers of this project, kind of our early distribution process group, and they're going to help us solve any potential issues in distribution on installation for our mass distribution. So calling them kind of our early pioneer group. It's going to help us solve any hurdles that we come across. But again, for this project, the receivers are free for the participating EOCs. There are no installation fees, equipment costs, or maintenance costs. We will ensure the receivers are operational and will continue to check in with participating entities and help them troubleshoot any issues if needed. Our next steps for the project is to confirm the participation of the EOCs that declare interest in the surveys. We have already identified the coverage of each EOC that has filled out the survey previously. Now we need to work with them to figure out what type of gear best fits their EOC. So if they require an outdoor antenna, indoor antenna, whatever specialized gear they need to get this installed. And again, that is all covered under the grant. We will work with the local agencies to install the receiver and ensure it's operational. Then we will check in with the EOCs in the group to ensure, again, that receiver continues to be functional and offer any help to troubleshoot any issues they come across. And if needed, we will travel to their site to ensure that the receivers are working properly. And that's the end of the data casting component of our presentation. I'll bring it to our second question for our discussion. Now, redundancy in alerting mechanisms during a disaster can save lives. What other types of alerting pathways should we consider? So remember, we had that first question in the beginning after Adam finished up in the second one.
Thank you, Brandon. Okay, so we're now in the discussion portion. Cheryl, I'll point to you. If you receive a question for the BCA, the microphone labeled public comment is open. Adam, you can use that one, and Brandon can use the closer mic. Director, any questions or comments?
I actually only had one question at the beginning, and she answered it during her presentation, so I'm good.
Copy that. And to the board, it's open for any discussion or questions. Okay. Hearing none. Oh,
Sorry.
Board Member Briggs.
I appreciated hearing, I guess, the way you phrased it was a high value initiative. This is for Cheryl, I think.
Yeah, hi.
I mean,
High risk tasks, high stakes environments. Yeah. High
And-
stakes settings.
I think about personal decision making and having this device and how, I mean, I was in a 6-story building. There wasn't much I could do. Okay. But I'm not, if I was at the top of a 10-foot ladder welding, I would definitely benefit from this. So I can appreciate how, I think you expressed it as targeted messaging or outreach. But there's innumerable things that I would not want to be doing if I was about to be subjected to a very strong earthquake underneath a rack fixing my car with a hydraulic lift, handling chemicals, any number of construction activities. So anyway, I think that I was just very intrigued by how you phrased that. And then just a general question, I'm not sure who it would go to, but has anybody looked at the refinery industry to the extent it's going to exist in California long term? But refineries are very dangerous places that I don't know what kind of logic or outreaches, and they're also co-located with urbanized areas as well in Southern and California and in the Bay Area. I don't know if any work has been done outreach to refineries. And then I was also thinking about Diablo Canyon, the one remaining online nuclear reactor.
Do you have any comments?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Oh,
With regard to Diablo Canyon, for a while, your predecessor on the board was from PG&E. And I know that they have implemented earthquake early warning in administrative offices. I do not believe that it's been implemented within the nuclear power plant facilities, but it's definitely on PG&E's radar. And as you probably well know, they must, according to both state and federal statute, adhere to certain seismic assessments on a regular basis.
Yeah. So I do have some information regarding your questions. I'll tackle the refinery one first. So this is actually the third study that I've been involved with, one in 2016, one in 2020, and one this past year on for Cal OES, for you, for the public. And we did some interviews with refineries in the 2016 study. I think you will find a similar answer from them today as we did then, as you did from the air setting, the air safety setting. They are so regulated already as to their hazard risk management, safety procedures. Any entrance of EEW into that environment has to come through their current regulatory structure. Otherwise, they can't change anything. So it really has to come through that direction. The one exception to that thought is what I said about personal device delivery. It's now in those environments through people's smartphones. So let's reimagine now that we know it's one of these two pathways. We're already in with one. We know that the only way in is on the automated side is through the regulatory structure that exists. Let's see now within that smaller set of options where we think we can approach and make a big difference. So that's what I would say about refineries. And we also had a high benefit cost ratio for gas related shutoff valve control in the 2020 study. I will note that technologically, many of those valves take 40 to 90 seconds to meaningfully close. So we might not be talking specifically about gas flow, but there might be other aspects of the system that could be controlled. Diablo, you mentioned there is EEW use at nuclear facilities in Japan. And EEW, what's it good for? I think our messaging, which is very strong around drop, cover, and hold on, super important. And opening the public's eyes with our messaging around context-specific use could help the public understand that EEW is good for helping you know how to protect yourself, and in many different settings, it has additional applications. So I think opening the public's mind to that, it's a very subtle messaging game, but it is the frontier of where we're at with our communication for the public, how to show its relevance to all the different places you might be in a day or what you're doing in your career. That's the one I'm most excited about, is what you're doing in your work.
Thank you. Great discussion. Any further comments?
I have a couple of clarifying questions. I wanted to go back to your slide about the untapped potential for school PA alerts. Looking at kind of what's written on the slide, but then listening to you talk, I think maybe I'm just a little confused, because I think you said because teachers and older students have smartphones and the personal devices, that maybe this isn't like a good way to go, but the slide seems to say that it has untapped potential. So could we revisit that? And then, I have a 3 and a 5-year-old, so they definitely don't have smartphones. And I know a lot of the teachers in those classrooms at that age are not always, on their phone because they're chasing young children around. So just any additional thoughts or clarification on that?
Yeah, I'm really excited about EEW for schools. I think it's an incredibly important area of application. I would put it number one for me personally, being a parent as well, and knowing the role that schools play as the center point of preparedness and community rallying. It has a lot of ancillary benefits to promote preparedness through schools and families. So mathematically proceeding, the model addresses PA alerts. So
we can estimate the benefits of that, and it's very high, but we don't currently have a lot of PAs that are hooked up to EEW. So the current state of EEW in schools in California is not coming through that pathway of the public audio visual alert. It's now kind of coming in through the back door through whoever has a smartphone on, not on silent, etc. So I think the low hanging fruit is to help students, young people with phones, and teachers. I think about going to unions and talking with teachers about what's already in your classroom that you can use as a tool. We don't want it to surprise them that we want them to be able to use it. So it's just a different way of thinking about how to maximize EEW benefits. I think for elementary school and earlier, PAs are the way to go. You need that audible address. So really, you could almost split between elementary school gets one policy. Maybe it's a mandatory policy to have audible alerts in elementary schools, but you have a more proactive public outreach, standards of protocols integrated into teacher training and staff training for middle and high schools and for high school students. So you see, it's just kind of refining our strategy with schools to better target technology to audience to setting.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification.
I hope that.
And I have one question on the data casting too. I was wondering if you could maybe explain a little bit why you're targeting EOCs as the places for this, because I would hope, our EOCs aren't always activated, right? So lots of times there might not be anybody in some of these EOCs until after an incident's already occurred. So is it like for aftershocks, or what is the rationale with targeting EOCs?
Well, there are often EOCs that are fully staffed or maybe staffed several days a week. However, we do want to ensure that people who are working with an emergency response setting, they have this alerting capability for aftershocks in that case, especially there's so much damage that occurs because of aftershocks. The initial shock might cause some kind of damage, and the aftershocks are what's causing that non-structural damage to occur, breaking down the lights and so forth. But they're also kind of a pivotal part in terms of response, right? So making sure they have that alerting capability for the protection, so that way they can then ensure their protection, they can then help others and continue that process.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, looking at the board to see if there are any more comments on this topic. Julie.
Sorry, just one other question on EEW and healthcare facilities. Do you have anything you can share about that, like particularly in hospitals, but there are numerous types of different healthcare facilities or other types of facilities that serve vulnerable populations?
Yeah, the only hospital I know of in the state is Cedars-Sinai, which has a program to have audible alerts for staff, and they're expanding possibly also to clinical staff, and they're expanding also to administrative staff. If anybody else has more up-to-date data than me, let me know. I think there is a great need for development of these kinds of standard operating practices and protocols in medical clinics. We face the crisis of protect yourself first or protect your patient first. Is this an airplane situation where you put your oxygen mask on first? Or is this an advice where certain type of people should get instructions about how to protect the people that are under their care? So that's the messaging issue, the protocol standards issue that I'm most concerned about for medical centers. But I think there is high potential to help people both through their cell phones. Every nurse in the hospital carries a tablet. This could be automatically activated through that rather than from your cell phone. Let's go talk to those medical the folks who designed the patient data
tablets that are carried around hospitals and work with unions and staff at hospitals to figure out what kind of instructions make sense to produce from that. Those are my thoughts, but there's a lot of work to be done there along those same lines.
I'll just add, I was fortunate enough to be able to talk to the emergency manager at Cedars-Sinai and have a communication about their system. And it sounds like it's complicated for hospitals, as you could imagine. Depending on who it is it a surgeon you're trying to alert? You're talking about automated actions in the hospital, but what specific automated actions? But I would love to discuss more. You can set the meeting to discuss potential pathways forward in terms of getting EEW into hospitals and really which route might be best. So I'd love to talk to you after.
We had a similar situation on the airport study too, with how to handle jet bridges. And that's going to require a lot more outreach to airlines, as well as to the counties or city police departments that kind of manage the security procedures. Because arguably one of the other most hazardous areas is when people are on the jet bridge, because they're on wheels, they move, they contract, and they expand. And so developing procedures around how to clear a jet bridge quickly, whether it's back into the terminal or on the aircraft, and then leaving it vacant until the alert has passed, that is a really important thing that a lot more work needs to be done on.
If I may take 30 seconds to underscore one thing we talked about earlier regarding these uses in specific cases and specific tasks that people are doing. Shakeout has been tremendously successful with drop, cover, and hold on message over 15 years now. Every year, we have a new opportunity to choose a special theme, place. Let's make it the airport year for Shakeout and package the messaging, package the conversation, package the outreach around that setting for 1 year. And then next year, do it in hospitals. And next year, do it in elementary schools. And next year, do it for construction workers. Every 2 years, there's a licensing process for general contractors through the state. Every 2 years, we have an opportunity when they go and renew their licenses to inform them about EEW for their workers and ask them to explain to us how they're making their employees in their contracting business safe for earthquakes on the job. So let's look for these regular interaction points where the government has a moment of attention and obligation and exchange, and see what we can do sector by sector. The sector-based approach has been working. We just need to, do our best to ramp it up. So all the right strategies have been employed here. We just have more work, more to do. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And just a reminder to the board, we enjoy the conversation, the discussion. Just know we take it as a charge. So we will be following up on a lot of these items and truly appreciate it. Thank you to the presenters. With that, we will take a 5-minute break. So looking to be back at 2:50 and we'll move to the second half. Thank you. Natalia, you're up.
Yes, hello, good afternoon. How's my sound?
You're loud and clear.
Well, thank you for this opportunity to present on behalf of the Shake Alert Earthquake Early Warning System. And my apologies for not being able to attend in person due to ongoing federal travel restrictions. I will be updating you on recent accomplishments and our rapid response to the Shake Alert system outage that occurred in March of this year. So during the past 12 months, the West Coast-wide Shake Alert system detected over 250 events. Of those, 35 earthquakes generated alerts delivered by apps, and 9 earthquakes generated alerts delivered by the wireless emergency alert system. 5 of those earthquakes had a magnitude 5 or greater, And the largest, if you already heard earlier today, was a magnitude 7 that occurred on December 25th of last year offshore of Northern California in the Mendocino Triple Junction region. So during the December earthquakes, alerts were delivered throughout Northern California and into Central Oregon. And this was the second earthquake where shake alert powered alerts have been delivered simultaneously into 2 states. And again, if you heard in a previous presentation, another notable earthquake was a magnitude 5.2 on April 14th near Julian in San Diego County. For both earthquakes, the shake alert powered VIA alerts were delivered to hundreds of thousands of people, with millions receiving alerts through their mobile devices, either through VIA notifications or other apps. So over 7 million shake alert powered alerts were delivered to wireless devices, the largest number for a single earthquake so far. A success story from both earthquakes is the activation of shake alert powered alert delivery systems in K-12 schools in Medford School District in Oregon during the December Mendocino earthquake, and in 269 Los Angeles Unified School District K-12 schools during the Julian earthquake on April 14th. So while the Los Angeles district was on their spring recess at the time, this alert activation can be considered as a live test of their alert delivery system. Also in the past year, we added 3 new license to operate partners. Kinemetrics, which is located in Los Angeles and focused on delivering platforms for seismicity monitoring and earthquake response. NASA's Deep Space Network facility in Goldstone in California that can now use shake alert data to protect their sensitive equipment, including antennas that serve as a critical communication link with satellites. And Genesis Incorporated, which is based on San Diego, and whose long-range acoustic device products are being used for mass notifications in large, busy facilities. And Shake Alert continues to add new licensed operators, currently at 16. And we are continuously working on with various industries and school districts and other facilities in order to expand our LTO pool. And our technical partners offer reliable and robust Shake Alert powered products and services. And in other good news, the seismic networks for the full West Coast system now are built at 96% completeness level. Also, last fall, we were able to fill three critical positions for the project. Myself as the project coordinator, I started last December, our IT systems chief, and our operations manager. However, we remain at about 50% vacancy rate due to ongoing federal hiring freeze. So the rest of my presentation will focus on the timeline and actions taken during Shake Alert's system emergency maintenance that occurred between March 12th and 15th. So as a reminder, the USGS managed Shake Alert earthquake early warning system is operated in close partnership with regional monitoring networks of the Advanced National Seismic System, the California Integrated Seismic Network, partner universities, and participating state agencies. So on the morning of Tuesday, March 11th, Shake Alert partner detected connections from an unknown source attempting to access one of their servers. Established security protocols were rapidly implemented and Shake Alert personnel were immediately notified. Next day, on the morning of Wednesday, March 12th, the Shake Alert team, in collaboration with the USGS's Computer Security Incident Response Team, also known as CSIRT, started an investigation and implemented enhanced monitoring of the shake alert servers. As a precautionary measure, USGS CSERT, with permission from the shake alert technical manager, shut down network access to some shake alert production servers in the afternoon of March 12th. In an effort to do the most thorough evaluation possible, the shake alert technical manager and I made a decision to take our message alert servers offline at 7:30 p.m. that same day. Immediately, all technical partners and emergency management agencies in California, Oregon, and Washington were informed about the system outage. The shake alert response team determined that the safest and most reliable step was to completely rebuild all the servers. This process was immediately put into action about midnight on March 12th. Additionally, the shake alert operations team used the outage as an opportunity to install newly acquired computer hardware, which had been part of a planned upgrade. Installing the new hardware shortened the rebuild time and contributed to an even more robust shake alert system. To further enhance the future safety and security of the shake alert system, USGS and Department of Interior partners continued their digital forensic analysis into Thursday, March 13th, while rebuilding the shake alert production servers in parallel. Additionally, the computer security response team implemented state-of-the-art tools to assist the shake alert team with monitoring security on the newly rebuilt servers. So by the evening of Friday, March 14th, all production, which are internal non-public facing servers, were rebuilt and protected with additional security measures. After the production servers were brought online and started ingesting real-time data from the field sensors, the shake alert operations team conducted tests to verify performance of all earthquake detection software. This ensured that the increased cybersecurity controls would not interfere with standard operations of the shake alert system. So at 6:30 p.m. on Saturday, March 15th, after extensive testing and validation of system performance, the full shake alert system was brought online. Immediately, all shake alert technical partners, state emergency agencies, and other partner agencies were informed that they could resume normal operations. Also, some additional information for your consideration. While the shake alert system was offline, the USGS asked the shake alert's technical partner, Google, to temporarily activate their standalone Google Android earthquake alert system in Washington, Oregon, and California. This system utilizes crowdsourced data from Android cell phones to deliver earthquake early warning alerts. So Google fully switched over to their system at 2:30 p.m. on March 13th and fully reconnected back to the shake alert system servers by 6:50 p.m. on March 15th. Also, for the duration of the outage, shakealert.org and USGS Recent Earthquakes websites hosted a special banner stating that the system was offline for emergency maintenance. And in conclusion, so the shake alert system is being constantly improved. With every event, we continue to learn and fine-tune the system's performance. All the efforts to prepare and anticipate cybersecurity challenges that all organizations face paid off when shake alert operations team was able to swiftly and effectively address March incident. Recent shake alert system performance affords us a chance to celebrate important successes and milestones. Over 7 million shake alert powered alerts were delivered to cell phones during April's Julian earthquake. This is the most since public alerting began in California in October 2019. From the Julian earthquake, we can also highlight successful alert deliveries by our license to operate technical partners to critical facilities in California, such as Los Angeles School District, Metrolink, Los Angeles Metro, and the Deep Space Network. All these accomplishments are the direct result of the steadfast partnership with Cal OES. So thank you all for all you do to make Shake Alert the public safety system that provides earthquake early warning for all.
Thank you, Natalia. Before we move forward in the system operations section, Deputy Director Najura has a comment.
Hello, for those in the room, the director and chief deputy director just got a call that they need to jump on, but they are planning on coming back. I wanted to thank Natalia for that very detailed, but very easy to understand kind of walk through the system outage in March. And I want to thank you and USGS because they were truly communicating with us on a continual basis. I mean, I was at 10:30 at night, I was on the phone, and that wasn't a problem for anyone. And we kind of all went through it together. And I liked what Natalia said, and it's something that we in emergency management, we try to look at kind of the positive, the opportunity within the disaster, and coming out this side of it with no issues, because we didn't actually have any earthquakes during that window, which is great, but also a stronger system because, you know, when they rebuilt the servers, they have now integrated even more cybersecurity protections. And so we have an even stronger system. So we're going to look at this as a positive and just move forward and keep doing what we do. So thank you, Natalia.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we will move to now hear a system operations update from System Operations Manager Philip Labra, followed by an update on MyShake.
Hey again, everyone. Thank you so much. Just a few quick updates for the group as far as the system operations portion of it. Roll, if you go next slide. The California Earthquake Early Warning System, which is the network of contributing stations within the state, have increased to 1,046 out of our goal of the 1,115 total stations. We're at about 94% complete. This is an increase of about 71 stations online and contributing since our last report in September 2024. Cal OES and our partners have completed 700 out of the 702 planned CUES funded EEW stations, with 69 stations in total remaining in pending completion. Down at the bottom, we covered the public safety communication, continues to work with our partners to connect EEW stations into the state microwave network. Since we last met, there are 49 additional EEW stations online and connected to the state microwave system for a total of 172 out of 317 stations, with 145 sensors remaining. Next slide. Oh, yeah, and that was it for system ops. Yeah, and we'll just jump right into the MyShake updates. In April, next slide, please. In April 2025, during Earthquake Preparedness Month, Governor Newsom announced a significant milestone, the MyShake app supporting 4 million or surpassing 4 million downloads. Next slide. This accomplishment marks a crucial step in increasing access to California's life-saving earthquake technology and enhancing resilience across the state. Thanks to our partner initiatives and public outreach events, as well as quick response and messaging following earthquakes, more Californians more than ever are tapping into EEW. This increased engagement is a strong sign of public interest in preparedness and highlights the community's growing trust in the system. Next slide. Following the two major earthquakes that shook California last December, Cal OES and the Berkeley Seismology Lab announced that the first in the nation statewide earthquake early warning phone app is now available for download on Chromebooks and Mac OS, so laptops and tablets. In addition, there have been a few updates that have been made to the MyShake app and include enhancements such as visual and audio, magnitude information, location improvements, orientation, and user-informed background improvements. And a couple of those I just wanted to highlight that alerts are now offered in 6 different languages. That includes English, Spanish, traditional Chinese, Tagalog, Korean, and Vietnamese. As far as the magnitude information, EEW alerts will still focus on earthquakes with a magnitude of 4.5 or above. However, based on user feedback, the application has been updated to also show seismic activity starting from magnitude 2.5. Also, the search functionality within MyShake now offers the ability to pinpoint the location of seismic activity and identify neighborhoods, places, addresses, and zip codes. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. Deputy Director Najiro, would you like to provide any comments?
Just thanks to UC Berkeley, a great partner with the MyShake, and USGS, because obviously it's powered by Shake Alert. We worked on this a long time. We've had some demos in our classroom here at Cal OES, and finally it happened. So it's these little milestones that keep us going and get us excited and make us look to what the next milestone is going to be. And I'm going to throw that out to you over and over again through the rest of the meeting. Think of what our next milestone should be. Thank you.
And I'll turn it over to the board for any questions or comments on system operations. Hearing none, we'll now.
Just with respect to the download metric, I don't know anything about iPhone apps relatively compared to my son. But I've probably been on at least 2 phones since 2019. And if I've downloaded it twice, is that 2 downloads? Am I the same person? Is that 1 if I've downloaded it on my 2nd generation phone? And what if I deleted the app 3 weeks later because I didn't know what it was or I didn't mean to download it? So is that a true or accurate count of who has it on their phone?
Yeah. So it's usually tied to your Apple ID. So if you did not change your Apple ID, it would only count as 1. But there are a variety of ways where they deconflict multiple downloads.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments or questions from the board? Okay. We will now transition to education and outreach, where we'll hear about our newly developed earthquake readiness guide from Research and Development Lead Coordinator Brandon Howland. We will also watch and learn about 2 unique outreach campaigns from our Education Outreach Lead Coordinator, John Goodell. Finally, we'll hear about the takeaways from the 2024 Shakeout Tour from our Earthquake Program Specialist, Chris White. First up is Brandon Howland, Research and Development Lead Coordinator, who will provide us insight on the Earthquake Readiness Guide.
All right, hello everyone. Thanks again for staying with us. I'm going to talk about the Earthquake Readiness Guide. Going to kick off this education outreach section. We'll be discussing several groundbreaking and forward-thinking projects, but the forefront of these projects is our Earthquake Readiness Guide. Designed through our collaboration with Cal OES's Seismic Hazard Branch and the Crisis Communications Team, we created the Earthquake Readiness Guide to provide a comprehensive resource of earthquake preparedness information and tips. The Readiness Guide is essentially a roadmap to better inform the public on how to react and respond to seismic activity in their location. We developed the Readiness Guide in the same style as the Listos California's informational guides, and while outlining the guide, we focused on 5 essential components. We looked at how to get alerts, making a plan, creating a go bag if needed to evacuate, or a stay box if required, to stay home. Then we have taking protective actions such as drop, cover, and hold on. And finally, the recovery phase. Let's take a quick, deeper look into the components of the guide. First, we have step 1, which is get alerts. We want to make sure everyone has access to earthquake early warning, so we want to encourage downloading the MyShake app. We also focus our first step on WIAs and Android alerts, so people are aware of different alerting pathways. It's also important to allow local emergency alerts on your phone. It's a little notification, little toggle you can put onto your phone to get those local alerts, and sign up for alerts in your county at calalerts.org. Step 2 is to make a plan. This section addresses having a plan to keep yourself and loved ones safe, as well as looking at reunification of family members if displaced during seismic events. It also discusses what they should do in advance of an earthquake to protect themselves, such as securing their space, like bookcases, beds, and sofas. And of course, practice your plan, such as practicing drop, cover, and hold on. Then throughout the entire guide, we refer to other resources as well, including website links to our partners. The third step is a checklist of items needed to either create a go bag or a stay box. The items differ slightly, whether you're focused to evacuate on short notices, or if you are unable to leave your home for an extended period of time. This section walks you through everything that you'll need to survive at least 72 hours or longer, from necessities such as food and water, as well as medication, and also items including key documents and first aid supplies. Step 4 reminds everyone about the importance of protective actions, both in practicing them in advance and implementing them during an earthquake. In addition to the variations of drop, cover, and hold on, or lock, cover, and hold on, we also focus on other ways to protect yourself while driving, asleep in bed, outdoors, or along the coast. And the fifth and final step is the recovery phase, where we can reconnect, recover, and rebuild. Although earthquakes only last a few seconds, they leave behind decades of damage. In this section, we walk through the steps to begin the recovery process from the immediate aftermath of an earthquake and beyond. Key points are to check for hazards at your home, looking for gas leaks, for example. Stay informed by monitoring local radio or television networks. Contact family and loved ones, and take pictures right away, and then contact an insurance agent. To view the readiness guide in full, you can visit our website at earthquake.ca.gov. It is currently only available in English. However, we plan to expand to other languages shortly. Also, we do bring this with us to outreach events. So we have a small portable size version of this that we hand out at outreach events.
Thank you, Brandon. We'll now turn it over to John Goodell, Education and Outreach Lead Coordinator, who will present to us via video on our influencer campaign.
Good afternoon, I'm John Goodell. And next up for Education and Outreach is our influencer campaign. As we develop new ways to promote earthquake relief.
Or I'll go ahead and play it again.
Early warning, we thought about how can we reach some. Good afternoon, I'm John Goodell. And next up for education and outreach is our influencer campaign. As we develop new ways to promote earthquake early warning, we thought about how can we reach some of our vulnerable populations, and specifically those hard to reach communities. Part of our plan included our first of its kind social media influencer campaign. These California-based influencers worked in collaboration with our seismic hazards branch to develop messaging on earthquake early warning and earthquake preparedness, particularly in recognition of April as Earthquake Preparedness Month. With our goal of reaching vulnerable, hard-to-reach online communities, we wanted to ensure that we targeted a variety of influencers. In doing so, we exhausted an expansive search for influencers who represent those targeted demographics in high seismic activity areas. We selected 3 influencers from diverse backgrounds of visually impaired communities, city experts, and family-friendly material. These 3 content creators pioneered a successful influencer campaign that covered topics like drop, cover, and hold on, preparedness before and after an earthquake, and how people of all capabilities can prepare an emergency kit. Here are some examples of our social media influencers content. First, we have Brandon Wong, otherwise known as Dad in SF, who represent an Asian family of 4 living in San Francisco. Let's take a look at the video now. Next, we have Evan Lovett, known as LA in a Minute. His popular social media following often revolves around breaking news and general news stories in and around Los Angeles. Here is his video.
What is up? This is your LA in a Minute, and California is the land of earthquakes. In fact, since earthquakes have been recorded, California hasn't gone more than 30 years without a significant quake. That's why it's important to be prepared. So in collaboration with Cal OES, I want to talk about how to be prepared before an earthquake strikes. Let's get into it. The first thing to do is download the MyShake app so you can get an alert before strong shaking starts. I make sure that my family has the MyShake app on all of our devices because it delivers alerts for earthquakes of a magnitude 4.5 or greater seconds before the shaking arrives. These are crucial seconds that can mean a world of difference for your safety. Next up, know where you could drop, cover, and hold on at home and at work. When an earthquake starts, quickly drop to the ground, cover your head and neck with your arms, and hold on to a sturdy object until the shaking stops. Now, this part is important. After the shaking stops, have a meeting point for your family, your building, your neighborhood, your friends, somewhere that's easily recognizable and accessible. I'm telling you from experience, having your community on the same page really helps. Next up, either create or download a contact sheet with family, friends, and first responders like fire and police, and keep that in a safe, easily accessible place, as well as a printed copy of your earthquake insurance policy and other important documents. Okay, this one is crucial. Know how to turn off your gas, electricity, and water. I did not know how to do these things, so I looked them up. For the gas valve, it's generally near your gas meter. So you turn the handle with an adjustable wrench a quarter turn until it's perpendicular from the pipe. Again, look it up or YouTube it to find out exactly how to do it. This is important. Next up is the water. This one's a little bit easier and more self-explanatory, but know where your main water shutoff valve is. It's usually near the curb in a small access box or near the water meter or even inside your home. Once you find it, turn that valve handle clockwise until it stops. The power is the most straightforward. Know where your electrical panel is, open it, and flip the large switch labeled main or service to the off position. Again, it's imperative that you're prepared before the earthquake. A quick walk through these things will only take a few minutes and you will be prepared. Earthquakes are unpredictable and the best thing you can do is be prepared. Download the MyShake app on all devices and visit earthquake.ca.gov to print the earthquake readiness guide. Earthquakes are a part of life in California, but your preparedness can make all the difference. All right, California, it's been a minute.
And finally, we have Molly Burke. At 4 years old, she was diagnosed with a rare eye disease, which eventually caused blindness. Her ability to connect with viewers and her passion for bringing awareness to earthquake preparedness allowed us to reach an untapped and neglected community. Let's take a look at her video now.
When the LA wildfires broke out in January, I faced my first natural disaster, and it was a rude awakening to realize how unprepared I was, especially as a blind person. I was forced to face the reality that I am at an increased risk as a disabled person, and that it is that much more important for me to be prepared for my own safety and peace of mind. Living in California, I'm particularly aware of the risk of earthquakes, so this Earthquake Preparedness Month, in collaboration with Cal OES, I'm preparing as much as possible for the inevitable earthquake that none of us want to think about, but we have to be prepared for. We already have some of our large, heavy artwork hung on earthquake hooks, and we've secured down these wine glasses with museum putty. We also plan to get some of their other items to secure big furniture like this cabinet. One thing we already have ready is this emergency prepared kit that we keep by the front door, and it has everything we need if we need to evacuate, and we can just grab it and go, but it also has things to shelter in place, which includes things for my guide dog, like his kibble. Oh, you want to eat that now, don't you? We also have a ton of stuff for us in here as well, like food, crank radio, we've got a first aid kit, a whistle, clean drinking water, and a printout of all of our emergency contacts, which brings me to my next point. Make sure you have a list of all of your emergency contacts in an accessible format. We currently have ours printed out and digitally available, but I want to braille it as well because you never know, like that might be the only way that I can access it in an emergency, and I want to be ready. So on our list, we have my family members, my partner's family members, as well as trusted friends and neighbors. I know that it can feel like there's a lot of things to do, but trust me, tackling one thing at a time helps, and you will be so happy if and when that day comes that you are ready and have thought all of these things through. For more information, you can go to earthquake.ca.gov and print out their Earthquake Readiness Guide and get tons of other life-saving resources. Isn't that right, Oten? You want to be prepared, don't you, sir? He's prepared to take a nap, that's for sure.
So as you can see, 3 completely different examples, all resulting in high-performing video content. Molly's video alone garnered more than 26,000 views in just 2 weeks, while overall the campaign had more than 250,000 impressions across multiple social media platforms. We are already looking forward to extending this campaign in the near future and building it off the foundation already set in place.
Thank you, John. And this brings us to the first discussion question for the education outreach section. Building off the influencer video campaign, what are some other ways to educate on EEW and earthquake preparedness to vulnerable populations and hard to reach communities? John Goodell, who will present via video, will be speaking on our partnership with the Sacramento History Museum.
Next up, we'll be discussing our exhibit at the Sacramento History Museum. In another first of its kind for Cal OES, we partnered with the Sacramento History Museum for an earthquake exhibit throughout the month of March. Officially referred to as Earthquakes and Epidemics, the exhibit focused on not only California impacted earthquakes, but also Sacramento's connection to other disasters, including wildfires, floods, and the COVID epidemic. The museum's 3rd floor of its old Sacramento location was transformed into a historical reflection of the state's worst disasters, including iconic photos and videos. Our preparedness room, albeit not directly focusing on past disasters, targeted audiences both young and old. Earthquake-related materials and preparedness information was provided to visitors, along with informative posters and interactive videos throughout the exhibit. We also partnered with our friends from CERT and Listos, California, forming a collaborative and wide-ranging exhibit in conjunction with Earthquake Early Warning and the Earthquake, Tsunami, and Volcano program. The month-long exhibit culminated with a 1-day outreach event in Old Sacramento, dubbed the Ready, Set, Go Day on April 5th, which also coincided with Earthquake Preparedness Month. The family-friendly outreach event consisted of the earthquake simulator and booths from Cal OES, CERT, and other participating agencies. Throughout the day, hundreds of attendees rode the simulator and received outreach materials at our booth, which was stationed directly across from the Sacramento History Museum. Due to the exhibit's success, we are in the process of coordinating with the California Academy of Sciences in San Francisco on a similar exhibit in the future.
Another potential discussion question: what are some recommendations on how the earthquake early warning system can be promoted in your sector? And then to conclude our presentations, Chris White, Earthquake Program Specialist, will provide us with takeaways from the 2024 Great California Shakeout and a look ahead to this year's event.
Good afternoon, everyone. Excuse the coughing. I live in a biohazard zone at my house. I have two small children, so it's been a interesting month. So I'm here to discuss the 2024 Shakeout tour that we had and briefly touch on the possibilities for 2025. Just to jump back a little bit and provide context, Shakeout has become a global phenomenon. There are millions of people participating in earthquake drills around the world. In 2024, there were over 55 million people worldwide. In the United States, we accounted for just over 19 million. California is the biggest player with over 10.5 million in 2024. This year, the Great Shakeout Drill will occur on Thursday, October 16th. As of today, there are over 6 million people registered already. So it's within this context that we in the Seismic Hazards branch get really excited about this event. It's most likely the biggest event of the year. We put a lot of energy and time into leveraging Shakeout to spread our messages, which we've gone over extensively: drop, cover, hold on, download My Shake, get prepared with your emergency go bag, and now the readiness guide. But we really do have fun thinking about these new locations. How can we expand our messages? How do we coordinate with PIO and PR firms to really get our message and reach as many Californians as possible? So simply put, there's not a bigger bang for our buck. We're energized by it. Let's get into 2024 and see what we did last year. So we had a 3-city tour leading up to Shakeout Day. Each stop has an earthquake simulator, which allows people to experience a magnitude 7.0 earthquake. It's kind of fun to see the varied reactions when people go through it, from grandmothers praying to 10-year-olds giggling and putting their hands up, right? But whether they're horrified or they're thrilled, people walk away with an informed experience about what it means to go through a real earthquake. So Monday, October 14th, we were at UC San Diego. Tuesday, we hit Los Angeles at Homeboy Industries. Wednesday was at Sacramento State. Thursday ended up being, we had 2 events, which I'll go over. We love colleges. You can step back. The UC San Diego and Sacramento State events, there's high foot traffic. There's a lot of energy. Students are always energized, like really thrilled to be part of it. There's great security and administrative staff support, so we can get in there at 2 a.m. when we start setting up. Media outlets come early. It's just everything's kind of streamlined, and we get to have those media interviews really early to be able to get on the early morning news spots. The outreach engagement with students, we had at Sacramento State, 25 students from a geography class come, and everybody was excited to go on the ride, and we engaged with them at our informational booth. So they're just, we often think about colleges and UC spots to engage during these events. Los Angeles event was unique because it provided great engagement with a hard to reach community in a high seismic area in the heart of Los Angeles. And so there was extensive media engagement in English and Spanish. There was a high level of foot traffic because there were surrounding community activities. And because it's Los Angeles, we will always hit Los Angeles for every tour if we're able to do one, because we're able to get our messaging out to millions of people through media engagement. So that led up to Thursday's Shakeout Day drills. We had that day, October 17th of 2024 was the 35th anniversary of Loma Prieta. There were commemorations and acknowledgements throughout the day. We had 2 events. UC Berkeley partnered with Earthquake Country Alliance and Cal OES to host an event on their campus. There was a drop, cover, hold on drill. Afterwards, we had a press conference, which our own Deputy Director, Lori Nazura, spoke at, provided some comments. And that was followed by a preparedness block party where students were coming through. There was singing on stage. There was singers on stage. So it was just kind of a dynamic experience to get our push to push our messaging. And again, we always hit media at every stop that we go to. In Southern California was our second event. That was held at SoCal Edison. That was unique because they held an exercise that had 2 earthquake scenarios, which occurred within the same amount of time or very close to each other. And that was a great backdrop for media to get interest to come. We had high volume of media interest there, both English and Spanish. Again, got on the morning media circuits, and various partners, including OES and Red Cross and others, had informational booths to provide staff with information and engagement. Again, we had the earthquake simulator. The next slide, please. So this is just kind of a summary of our Shakeout Tour metrics. 3 cities, as I said, the total ad equivalency is roughly around 2 million. Over 200 people took the earthquake simulator experience. Nearly 40 media interviews, 95 total media mentions, and almost 30,000 MyShake downloads. So trying to push and leverage these 2 weeks as much as possible, which helped a little bit with that 4 million download landmark. All right, 2025. So right now, plans are currently underway and in development. We're anticipating a 3 to 5 city tour in multiple counties across the state. But again, our central focus, as always, is our educational outreach messaging, both in media and in community in-person events, to push, download MyShake, get your act together with getting a go bag ready, and other resources. So Sacramento, we want to lead from the front. Here at headquarters, we want to try to expand a little bit. So we always do the drop, cover, hold on drill. Hopefully, we might be able to start doing an evacuation drill within our branch just to get people to get the reflexes going if something happens. Include part of our social media influencers to push our messaging out. There's something called pastels in the parking lot, which is kind of a creative way to engage staff and get them to creatively think about a mural in a parking spot, and then it's competitive. And if they win, then they get a go bag. Just different ways to engage. We took that from our partners up in Redwood Coast. Quake Heroes is a really compelling documentary that a partner made. We've done screenings before. People cry during it. I mean, it really gets you to understand what happened during the Northridge 1994 earthquake, the preceding, during, and after events, and then just as always, coordinating with our warning center to really expand our messaging. Get in buildings A and B, which you're in now, they send out a drill over the intercom systems. So hopefully each year we aim to expand our activities. We always want to be creative while executing efficiently and judiciously, but we will get the greatest return on investment. Hopefully next year I can return with some great stories from 2025. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. Deputy Director Nazura, any questions or comments?
No comments.
Thank you. And I'll turn to the board for any discussion, questions, or comments.
Just wondering, have you ever considered going to the California State Fair and presenting or displaying something?
We have not gone to the state fair just because the timing is centered around the Shakeout Day in October specifically. But as far as an outreach event, we're always looking into the best way to do those.
Yeah, back in the day, Cal OES would go and booth at the at Cal Expo. So we haven't done that for a while. We'll look into that. Thank you for that reminder.
I was there last year. I'll probably go again and saw the huge Cal or high-speed rail exhibit and a bunch of other stuff. It was fun.
Okay, hearing no other comments from the board on education outreach, we'll move to closing statements. Do any board members wish to provide any final questions or comments? Okay.
Sorry, real quick. Probably not to belabor things today, Derek, but just one of your questions was, what can we do to promote things in our sector? And I probably haven't said this yet since I've been on the advisory board, but I don't know, maybe I could talk to you afterwards about some kind of case study for utilities. I know that PG&E looked at it and they, studied it and I think came up with their own opinion on what they would do as a electrical and gas utility if they had this either formally or informally integrated in their operations. Water utilities, wastewater utilities, telecom, they would each have a different perspective. Now is probably not the time and place to go through everything, but I don't know, maybe if you're looking for another case study, I obviously, this is why I'm here. So I might want to talk to you about doing that at some point.
Absolutely. We look forward to the discussions and we will take you up on that offer. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all the presentations today. It's really been great to spend some time really thinking in depth about these issues with all of you. To the note about the college campuses being a great place to go on your tour, well, we have 23 of them. So just let me know. I think, CSU would be able to accommodate that every year. It's just a matter of, pairing you all with the campus of your choice, like far enough in advance to make sure there's not some other conflicting event happening on that campus. And then I really appreciate the work that's being done around the influencer campaigns. I think it's a really creative approach, and I think that's necessary to reach a lot of the general population. So, and then one thought that I've had with my team recently that I'd share with you all is, and kind of relates to the Quake Heroes documentary and how compelling that is kind of being ready to capture that sort of storytelling approach or angle to preparedness when an incident happens. And most of us as emergency managers, we're not really thinking about that because we're thinking about response, right? But when we talk about trying to get people to understand the value and the importance, people really relate to those stories, and being ready when there is an incident to try to capture some of those stories, especially as it relates to early warning. If we have another, Northridge sized earthquake, not if, but when, right? What kinds of things can we have ready to go to get out there and to actually think sort of long term about how can we capture some of these experiences that maybe there's people that, really had their life saved due to the technology in that moment. So I just think, having a plan in place for another kind of Quake Heroes, eventually it might be something that could really help to move the needle on this stuff. So appreciate the creativity of the team and everything you're doing. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Any additional comments from the board?
One question geared towards the influencer campaign. Do you have any influencers in languages other than English? Any Spanish speaking influencers?
Well, that is on the docket probably for a next round. This was the first go at it, and so we look to expand that project.
Right. Thank you.
And don't forget about music videos. The last two places I've worked at, they've done music videos with local people who have a lot of talent, and it's been a smash.
Thank you. Okay. With that, Deputy Director, do you have any closing comments?
I want to thank everyone for coming down in person, and have a safe trip back to wherever you're going tonight. And I throw it out there, and I appreciate Member Briggs that you want to have a sidebar or conversation with regard to utilities. We're here anytime. We're happy to have those conversations, and we work very closely with the Seismic Safety Commission, which is actually doing some work with utilities, especially water utilities. So, and can we connect those with earthquake early warning and leverage? Absolutely. If not, if it's not appropriate in this situation, then, we'll take on whatever study or research or new area that we possibly can. So again, thank you for your comments, but it doesn't have to stop here. We're ready to listen anytime. Thank you.
Thank you. And at this point, we'll open up discussion for any public comment. All comments will be limited to 3 minutes in length per person. If you're joining us online, please leave your comments in the Q&A section or utilize the raise hand function of the video conference, and the moderator will unmute you. I'll turn to the chat moderator.
We just have one question. Are there any state granting sources available to 55 plus HOA communities for disaster mitigation projects?
Specifically for HOA, for associations, there may be some grants available that an HOA could apply for, but honestly, we don't have any grant experts in the house. We would have to really circle back around with you to get you the information. So if you don't mind sharing your contact information, we will be sure to connect you with somebody that can actually provide you with the variety of grants that you may be eligible for.
Yes, there is a dedicated mitigation department here at Cal OES. Okay, looking around the room, I do not see any more public comments. With that, we can entertain a motion to adjourn. Would anyone like to motion?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, all board members say aye.
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 And all opposed, nay. All right, hearing none, motion passes. Thank you. We are adjourned.